Hey everybody, happy Transition Thursday. I'm actually in the southern part of New South Wales, Australia, in a small town called Narooma. And there's a beautiful golf course behind me and incredible wave action bashing up against the rocks out behind me here. It's a great place to be for Christmas. I'm here to have Christmas with my wife and her family. It's the first time she's had Christmas in Australia for 20 years, so special time for her. Hey, a few weeks ago, I talked about earnouts as part of a transaction and how that they may be used to cover the gap between the expectations of buyer and seller, and how we're seeing more of those going into 2023. Given, I think, the uncertainty in the market and the uncertainty over valuations, it's a way to bridge the gap between buyer and seller. So along those same lines, we're hearing and seeing more on vendor notes. And vendor notes are different from earnouts in the sense that they tend to be a fixed amount with an interest rate or some sort of fee attached to them. And again, they're used to bridge that gap between the price expectations of buyers and sellers. So if you have to take a vendor note, if you're on the sell side, you should know that you're going to be subordinated to the senior debt that the buyers are going to take on to buy the business. And with that, you should be fully entitled to ask for the loan agreements that they're signing as part of the transaction, because you're now a creditor to a business that you used to own. The other thing I'd say is you should try to restrict the capital disbursements to the shareholders, the new shareholders, as best you can legally before you're paid back. So if you haven't had your vendor note paid back, they shouldn't be paying themselves dividends, in my mind. If I'm on the seller side, if I'm on the buyer side, yes, I'd like to be able to have the right to receive dividends. But if I'm on the seller side, I don't really want you as the buyer to be receiving dividends if I haven't had my loan paid back, my vendor note paid back. So those are very important considerations. And likewise, if you don't get paid back on time, or the interest payments haven't been paid on time, there should be an acceleration of the payments or an increase in the interest rates from this minimal rate that is generally even below what the banks are charging. So it's kind of opposite to the risk-return continuum in the sense that you're taking on more risk but getting paid less interest. And that's very typical of vendor notes. So you should be able to get loan documents from the buyer. You should be able to accelerate payments, and you should be able to restrict capital distributions to the buyers of the business. Now, there's certain nuances and changes that would come into effect if you're providing a vendor note to your management team as part of a management buyout. But generally speaking, these same kind of rules apply. So think about that. If you are in a transaction, you're thinking about transactions, maybe you're having discussions with the management team and that's what they're asking for. So there's lots of good literature on vendor notes that you can find out there, and talking to an advisor, I think, would be very, very helpful if you're asked to take one on. And certainly having proper legal counsel is critically important in these types of matters, because otherwise you may not be protected. You may not have the security that you think you have with the vendor note. So those are my thoughts for today. Hey, next week is coming up to Christmas holidays and Hanukkah for my Jewish friends. So I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to talking to you next week, probably with a bit of a year-end catch-up, reflections on the past year, and maybe some more thoughts on what's coming up for next year. So have a great week, everybody. Take care.